Hello and welcome to the first episode of Pixel Distorts. Today I'll be walking through the GIMP software. Now GIMP is a software similar to Photoshop, and it is free and open source, and it is available for all three platforms: Windows, Linux and Mac OS. Today I'll be going through some of the basics of GIMP, and let's start off. As soon as you open GIMP, you face these three dialog boxes. I mean to say these three windows. The first window is the toolbox window. The second window is the main interface, the canvas, and the third is the layers, brushes and stuff like those. Now traditionally GIMP used to be a 3-window program, but with the introduction of GIMP 2.8 we can use GIMP in a single window mode. So when I click on single window mode, all these 3 windows merge into a single window. So I'll just go through the some basics of GIMP. First thing I'll go through is the user interface. The GIMP user interface consists of a menu bar, a canvas, the toolbox and tool options, layers, channels, path and undo redo area. You have some brushes over here, patterns and blend modes over here. And then this is the status bar. This is the basic interface of GIMP. To start off, I'll be going through the concept of an image. So to start off, an image is a two-dimensional flat surface with some dimensions. It has a width and some height, and it also has a resolution. Resolution meaning how many pixels can fit within an inch. Here we have X resolution of 72 and Y resolution of 72, and this can also be expressed in pixels per millimeter, pixels per point, pixels per pica and stuff like that. We will be expressing throughout these series, unless otherwise mentioned, in pixels per inch. And then we have something called as a color space. Now if you look at an image, it may consist of 3 primary colors: red, green and blue. But if you see these old pictures, you couldn't see any colors in them because they were black and white or grayscaled pictures. So when you create a new image, GIMP will ask you for a color space. It can either be RGB color or grayscale. Now the next option, fill width. This is an important option that you need to select. It has 4 options. The first thing is the foreground color. When I select the foreground color and click OK, it will be filled with black. And why is it filled with black? Because when I look here at the toolbox, I have two colors over here. One is the foreground color and the other is the background color. I don't know if it's visible to you, but you have a black foreground and white background as default when you open up GIMP. So when you create a new image with foreground color, it will pick up any color which is in a set as the foreground color. Now if I change this color, say red, and now I click OK, it will be filled with red. Similar is the effect of selecting the background color. Here in this case the background color is white, so when I create a new image it will be filled with white. The next option is obvious. It will fill the canvas with white. The last option, transparency, is something different. Now to demonstrate this fourth option, I'll create two images. One with filled with foreground color, so it will be filled with red. I'll create a new image filled with transparency. So here, if you notice, you have two tabs open. One is the image with red filled and the other is the transparency filled image. If you look at the first image and go to the channels tab, you have three channels in it. The first is red, second green, and third is blue. But when you go to the transparency image, you have four channels in it: red, green, blue, and alpha. Now if you notice the layers tab, the background over here has a text with as a normal text. It is not bolded or italics, it's just the normal text. But when you notice this image, it is bolded. Now the reason it is bolded is because this image consists of only three channels: red, green, and blue. So if you are familiar with computer graphics, it is assumed that any color can be produced by a combination of red, green, and blue channels. So this image consists of only red, green, and blue channels. But there is one additional channel called the alpha channel, which represents the amount of opacity in the image. Opacity, if you have 100% opacity, it means that all the three channels express their values by 100%. If its opacity is 50, all three channels express their values by 50%. And if its value is 0, all three channels do not express their values at all. So that is what is happening here. You have red, green, and blue channels over here, and they have some certain values, and the alpha channel has a value of 0 and the opacity is set to 0. Therefore the effect of red, green, and blue is absolute 0. So this is the concept of transparency. A completely transparent image will not have any values for these red, green, and blue channels. Now when I look at this layer, I have this bolded text over here. This is the label of this layer. It indicates that this layer does not support transparency, or in other words, it consists of only 3 channels, red, green and blue. To add the 4th channel, you can right click on the layer and select add alpha channel. So as you can see, the text which was previously bold is now made normal. If you check the layers tab, you have an additional channel called the alpha channel. So hope I have made this clear to you. Now let me go ahead and delete this channel, or maybe undo this so that I get the 3 channels back. I'm gonna select the eraser tool. This is the eraser tool. I'm gonna select it and erase this. Let's see what will happen to this image. And to make things more clearer, I'm gonna change the background color as well. I'm gonna set the background color to green. I've set the background color to green, so when I erase this, oops, sorry, I think I made a mistake somewhere. I'll just select the brush tool and for the matter of fact, I'm gonna create a new image. There was some error in that image, so I'll go ahead and create a new image. I'll fill it with the foreground color and I'll choose a red, and I'll choose a background color of green, and I'll go ahead and fill it with foreground color. So there you go, you have red, and if you check the channels tab, you get these 3 channels. So when I choose the eraser tool and erase it, as you can see, the background color becomes visible, meaning the background is initialized to green, as we do not have any alpha channel in this. Now if I go to the layers, I mean the transparent image, and write something on this in red. Oops, there is some problem with this too. I'm gonna discard this and create a new transparent image. I don't know why this is happening. Maybe something wrong with the system, I guess. So I'll create this new image. I'm gonna write something with the red ink. I do notice the system is a bit laggy. I'll try rectifying any errors with the system in the future episodes. Sorry for the inconvenience. So when I draw something on this image, you can see the transparency is now filled with red color. Now when I erase this, it doesn't go back to the background color, but instead it goes back to transparency, and that is because of the presence of this alpha channel. That makes this image any that initializes the background to transparency, and whatever I erase from this, it goes back to transparency. But that is not the case with this. When I erase something, it goes back to green, and that is the background color. So I hope you have understood this concept. Now I'll go ahead and add an alpha channel to this and see the effect of adding an alpha channel to this. So now when I erase it, it will be transparent. By the way, I forgot to mention one thing. Transparency in GIMP is represented by a checkerboard of light and dark gray, as you can see here. So whenever you see a light and dark gray, it means it is transparent. So that's about transparent layers. The next thing I'm going to teach you all is the composition of an image. As I have said earlier, when you create a transparent image, you have 4 channels in it: red, green, blue and alpha. I'll go ahead and write something on this using white. There you go. I'm writing my name, and I am disabling the red channel. So when I disable the red channel, the green and blue channels show their values. Likewise, if I disable the blue channel, the red and green channels show their values. Similarly, when I disable the green channel, the red and blue channels show their values. So if I disable all 3, it will go back to black. And this is where the concept of grayscale images come into picture. Grayscale image is an image which can have an optional alpha channel without the presence of the red, green and blue channels. So if I look at a grayscale image, it may not have any channels at all, but by optional it may have an alpha channel. So that is the concept of grayscale images. So as you can understand, an image may be consist of, it may maximum consist of 4 channels, the red, green and blue and alpha channels, and it may not even consist of a single channel too. So in that case it is a grayscale image without transparency. So the presence of alpha channel determines the transparency in an image. If you want transparent images, you need to have the alpha channel. So that is about the composition of an image. Next I'll go ahead with explaining some of the tools within GIMP. So the first tool here is the selection tool, the rectangle selection tool. What I can do with this tool is select a part of an image like so. When I select a part of an image, all my additions done on this selection will only affect this selection. So if I take the eraser tool and erase like this, as you can see, only the portions which fit inside this rectangle are erased. That is because I have selected to edit only this portion. Now there are things called selection modes. If you look over here under the tool options, you have 4 modes. The first mode is to replace the current selection mode. So when I drag a new rectangle, the selection is replaced by this selection. It just creates a new selection without bothering about the previous selection. It replaces the current selection with a new selection like this. The second mode is the add to the current selection mode. This selection mode is a bit different. As you can see, I have selected a rectangle box here. If I go ahead and select one more rectangular box like this, it will add to the previous selection. Now I have a new selection with 2 rectangles. So if I select the eraser tool and erase it, it affects all these portions. It affects both these selections. Both these selections merge into a single selection, which I can use to edit this image. The next type of selection mode is subtract from selection. As the name implies, I can subtract selections from the current selection. So this is the current selection I have. If I make a rectangle over here, it will discard this portion of the selection. So only this portion is selected. The next is the intersect with the current selection. Now with this selection, if I choose to do this, then it will intersect between the old selection and new selection. So this is the intersection, and it will only select that region. I hope you have understood the selection modes. Moving on, this is the ellipse selection tool, and this is basically to make a circular or elliptical selections like this. You can manipulate the shapes as and such I want. You can move them around. Same applies to the rectangular selection box, and the same selection modes apply even to the elliptical selection. The next thing is something you may know as the lasso tool in Photoshop. Here it is called the free selection tool. This basically allows me to draw something like this and then make a selection. So if I need to make a selection of this M, I'll draw around M. Likewise, and finish my selection with that. So I can draw around M and only select M for my editing. So this allows more freedom to the user. The next is something called as fuzzy select tool. I will not be covering all these tools in today's episode. I'll be covering these as and when I use them. So you need to know only a few tools for now. The first 3, as I explained you. The next tool is the move tool. you can use this tool to pick and move layers. Right now I have only one layer, so this doesn't actually apply much. So if I create a new layer, here under the layers tab we have some few buttons here over here. The first button is the create a new layer button. It will, as it say, create a new layer on this image. So it has these fill types: foreground, background, white and transparency, as you would expect for an image, and it too has a width and height, and this width and height is independent of the image. So this image is right now in 640 into 400. So if I create a new layer with shorter dimensions, like so, only that portion will get a new layer. So if to make things more clearer, I'm gonna fill it with white. I'm gonna fill it with white, and to demonstrate this move tool, I just click on the move tool, and here I have two options: pick a layer or guide, and then move the active layer. I'll demonstrate the first thing: pick a layer or guide. It just does what it says. Just pick the stuff which I want. So this is the layer that I want, so I'll just move them. The next thing is move the active layer. This can be selected by clicking on that radio button, and it will move the active layer only. So if in my case this is the active layer, so I can move that, or if I choose this to be active layer, I can move that, as you can see. So that is about moving the layers using different move modes. And here too I have a few options. The first thing is the layers option. Using the move tool I can move the layers, as you can see. The second is the selection. So if I make a selection of something, some part of the image, I can move the selection as a whole. And the third thing is something called as path. Now if I create a path using maybe free select tool or paths tool, I can move the portions which I have assigned to the path. So that is about the move tool. The next tool is the alignment tool. Alignment tool, as it says, is used to align objects within an image. So if I consider this this layer as an object, I can demonstrate this alignment tool. So when I click on this alignment tool, you have something called as relative to option, and the other options are grayed out. So when I click on this image, I only get these many tool options, but those are not available right now. Those things will be available when I click an object relative to these many selections. So it's now set to relative to the first item. So the first item I'll click relative to that object, these options will be made available. So when I click on this related to this object, these options are available. So I can align this object using these tools. So the first thing is obviously align the object to the left. So align to the left will align it to the left of the image. Align it to the middle will center will align it to the center. And align to the right will align it to the right. Align to the top will align it to the top. And align to middle will make it align to the middle, and align to bottom will make it align to the bottom. Similar to this is the distribute tool. Now distribute tool is not that obvious because there is only one object in this image. So if I have multiple objects selected, I can use the distribute tool to move those selections according to the multiple objects. The next tool is the crop tool. This I think I'll be explaining it later in later tutorials. The next tool is the rotate tool. I can use this to rotate an image. I can directly enter the angle and rotate it like 45 and rotate. It will rotate 45 degree like so, or I can use my hands. I can manually rotate it like this. So that is about the rotate tool. The next tool is the scale tool. Using the scale tool, I can change the size of objects like so. You can even move them. You can enter the dimensions over here and it will scale accordingly. So that is about the scale tool. Next is the shear tool. Shear tool is used to change the shear it to one direction. So if I don't know how to explain this, I'll just demonstrate it. So if I click on this lower part and move to the right, it will shear the image to the right like so. If I go to the opposite side, it's like that. If I go top, it's just that. So if I just go top, it is like that, top and bottom. So that is the shear tool. The next is the perspective tool. This allows the object to be transformed with respect to a perspective, and here you can see the values of the transformation matrix. So if I just do this, it will allow a 3-dimensional effect on a 2-dimensional object like this. So this is the perspective tool, as you can see, and this is a flip tool. I'll explain this later. And this is another important tool called as a text tool. You can type something in the object using the text tool. It does what it says, it creates text. The next tool is a very popular tool called the fill bucket tool. This can be used to fill colors to objects like so. And next is the blend tool. This is an advanced tool used to create blending modes like this. So I have a blend mode of foreground to background. The foreground is set to red and background is set to white, so it blends from red to white like so. So if I can, there are plenty more modes for your selection. I'll not go too deep with this. I think I'll explain these as I do my tutorials. The next is the pencil tool. This is similar to the brush tool, and you can adjust the size and hardness of this brush. So the pencil tool and the brush tool are almost indistinguishable. I don't think there is any difference between these two tools, but there may be any difference. I'm not aware of any difference as of now. The next tool is the eraser tool. It can be used to erase something like so. And the next is spray paint. You can spray colors like that. The next thing is the calligraphic ink tool. You can use use this tool to create strokes, pen strokes, and these are pressure sensitive strokes. And the next thing is clone and heal tool. These things I'll be explaining in further tutorials, and that's it. Those are the basic tools which you need to be aware of right now. Oh yeah, there's one more tool called the crop tool, which is used to crop parts of an image like so. If you enter, it will crop the image like so. So yeah, that's the basic introduction to GIMP. So if you like create an image and you need to save it, you can save it as a GIMP image by using the .xcf extension. This will preserve all the layers and channels and paths you have created for the image. So this format is only used for image manipulation within GIMP. The other popular formats are located in the export option. So if you click on export, here you can select the other popular image formats using the extension. Yeah, that is a rough introduction to GIMP, and this ends our first episode right here. Until next time, bye bye.